Hello everyone. Who doesn't want to become an entrepreneur and start his or her own company? In fact, that's the topmost reason cited by applicants of MBA. Books have written on how some people are born with this talent and they have been mavericks and visionary, and not everyone can start their own company. However, knowing my friend Hannah Vich, who also is the guest for today, she is completely opposite of this. She hails from SRCC and IIM Bangalore and has worked successfully for long years in companies like HSBC, Accenture, and KPMG. She is a co-founder of two-year-old Expat Orbit, which works in the domain of expatriate management and global mobility. Today, we are going to burst some of the strong myths around startup and will venture into the adventurous journey of starting up a company step by step. So, let's get started.
First thing first, we want to know like who Hannah is. So we always have two kinds of person. One who are always the one who is like thinking of starting their own company, and the other one is like pretty comfortable working for someone else. Have you always had this hunt or feeling of starting your own company? Are you that type? And what was your calling on starting your own company?
I was never that type. I was never a startup person. I was always, and I'm still a very, very quiet sort of a person. And startup to me always created a vision of this chaotic unrest, which always seemed very unsettling to me in my mind, to be honest. So, in fact, even when it came to the corporate world, I remember when I got this PPO from HSBC when I was doing my MBA in IIM Bangalore. I wanted to ditch that PPO as well and take up literature course and go for writing. I discussed that with my mom when I got the PPO, and in fact I even discussed it with one of our professors at IIM Bangalore, and both of them sort of suggested me that go the same path, look for financial security first, and then just go ahead and just hone your skills, and then maybe you can take up writing full-fledged professionally if in case you feel you're ready for it. So that was the plan all along. I never wanted to do a startup. I know in MBA it was like people always talking about startup, but it never was that. And in fact, even in the corporate world, it was like I was pretty comfortable over there. It was, in fact, it was. I think I just came back from London. I was there and on a stint in London, and I came back from there and I met with Pratik. Pratik was my co-founder, who is my co-founder right now. He was my he was my colleague in KPMG about 10 years ago from now, if I say it's to 2020, and 2010 was when we first met in KPMG. So when I met him after I came back from London, he popped up this idea of Expat Orbit. And it was really nice, because he's had that experience in expat industry. So he really understood that. And I had just been an expat, so I understood the problems. So the moment he popped up that idea, it seemed like, it seemed really nice to me. It clicked to me there and then. But even at that point of time, I never thought that, this is a startup which Hannah is going to be working on as a co-founder. I just felt that, okay, yeah, Pratik has got a really good idea and he's always been very ambitious with the entrepreneurial thing. So I'll help him out with it. But then a year later, I think it was in 2018 of January, I sent a message to Pratik and said, are you still keen on working on that idea? I'll leave my job I told him I'll leave my job in May 2018 and we can start working on it fully. So that's how it happened. I think it was mainly because the idea of working with Pratik made me feel really comfortable. And so the two ticks which begin for an entrepreneurial journey, the team with which you're working with and the idea, that both gave me the comfort, and that's why I started with it. Otherwise, I don't think I would have really picked up a startup per se. So
I think with that first question, we already broke the myth that we need to have that kind of personality to start your own
Absolutely.
organization. Yeah. So we are intrigued to know that what was it for you. So what was the business model or how it all started? Would you elaborate on that?
Yeah. So see, business model and idea both are extremely important. I don't think you can start a startup without an idea per se. So, but when you're beginning a new startup or a new venture per se, I think, you can never get absolute clarity on the business model or on the idea. I think it's more about 60% of your gut feel and 40% is relying on facts. So because, you have done your homework, you know what you're working towards, you have some validation, only then you're starting with it, right? But
Okay.
unless and until you don't have that gut feel that, oh yeah, I feel this is going to work, it will not work. I'll tell you one thing very honestly. You'll have brilliant ideas, but till the time you don't trust your idea, it will never work. So the
Mm-hmm.
right amount of trust, not too much trust and not too little trust, because too much trust is something which will take you to the place where you will not look at the facts at all, and you'll get too attached to your idea, something of that sort, right? So when it came to expat orbit per se, that was the thing for us. I mean, having had that experience in the expat industry, like my co-founder Pratik, he was working with KPMG for about 10 years in expat
Mm-hmm.
compliances in itself. And in fact,
Okay.
even I had worked for 3 years in expat compliances with him. And
Mm-hmm.
when I was there as an expat, I could feel those gaps, the gaps where we talk about, the industry per se. So if I talk about the business model, right? In the industry, we have a lot of big players, right? Where we talk about compliances like taxation, immigration. As in, you are an expat yourself, you would realize that, these are things which are
Mm-hmm.
important in terms of the compliances. Then it's about relocation and, all those things. But then, creating a new life in a new country, it's about settling in a new neighborhood. You're making new friends. Your kids are starting a new life altogether. The rate of depression, it increases amongst expat spouses. The loneliness
True.
increases when you move to a new country, right? And then there's a specific term which is coined for kids who are born in other countries. They're called third culture kids, right? And the reason why that is because, you just simply, you're moving from
Mm-hmm.
one place to another. There's different things happening. You're becoming a different personality altogether. So all these small things, and there, in fact, if I tell you one thing, there are so many expats who come to different countries and they get brilliant entrepreneurial ideas, but they're not able to implement this. Why? Because, even though you are looking at things from a different perspective as an expat, but
Mm-hmm.
still you're not aware of the ecosystem. You're not aware of, what the documentation hassles are. You're worried about the bureaucracy. You think, "Arey, kaun panga lega yaar, chal chhod, jane de."
Mm-hmm.
This happens. So these are the things which the big players in the market, even if they think about or even if they don't think about, are not able to really resolve these problems.
Mm-hmm.
So this was the problem that we knew existed, because, we had seen both spectrum as a service provider as well as a consumer. So we could actually, identify this thing of where it should be and where it is. So we could identify the gap, and that's why we came up with the solution of, a unified platform where you kind of culminate all the services at one place. You
Mm-hmm.
give them just about anything that they want, and you make it in a manner that they want it. So all these services that we have in the platform have been as a solution to the problems that they have, rather than an idea that we have proposed. So if I kind of just break it down for you, Abhinav, it's like, as most of the entrepreneurs, we look at the idea first, and then we
Mm-hmm.
juxtapose that idea on a problem.
Mm.
That is that somehow, that is the vision that we have. That problem may not necessarily exist. What we have to do is we have to adopt a problem approach and then march on to the idea or the solution to it. At that point of time, your solution would be something which would be viable. It will be something which will really be helpful. And once your solution is helpful, you'll end up making money. So your business model always has to start. I mean, as per me, I cannot really say much about it, but the strategy that we guys adopted is that,
Mm-hmm.
you kind of break it down and you look at whether whatever solution you are putting across in the market, is it actually solving a problem? And is it really, or is it complicating it further? Right?
Okay.
So if I say that, that in our business model, we have a pool of experts who are
Mm-hmm.
basically, who are experts in their field, like for example accommodations or rental solutions. Like our internal team is expert in compliances. Then we
Mm-hmm.
have strategic types with a lot of big players in the industry who provide accommodations or community solutions or cultural training or language classes, and we have a mobile
Wow.
application, stuff like that. But
Mm-hmm.
the thing is that all these individual players, they existed earlier as well, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm.
But they were not really able to understand the expat sensibilities.
Mm-hmm.
When a Japanese or a Korean comes to India, that person finds it very tough to communicate with these people because of the language problem or the cultural problem. Now this person has to set up an entire life, and you make that person talk to 10 different people, each of these 10 who are somehow good in English, somehow not good in English. They understand, they will not be able to understand your problems well. They'll not be able to understand, why do you want a house which is all in white color? I mean, this wall in orange looks good to me. I don't know why it doesn't look good to you, right? But it's the way they are, right? So that's how we brought all these problems, and we kind of enhance the services which these service providers give with the understanding of expat sensibilities. So that's why the solution becomes easy for them. So that's how our business model is developed.
Uh, if I have to recall like two takeaways from what you have just explained, one is like it's not just the next day you have come up with this idea and gone over ahead with it. Both you and Pratik, your co-founder, had cumulatively 13 years of experience into this
Yes.
industry, and you have known like what are the gaps and what is the experience and what is the you have served the consumers, and now after having that experience, you have come up with this organization. So it is very important that you do all this due diligence before you start your own organization. And the other
Yes.
thing, when you are explaining me, when you are depicting what problems we are facing as expat in other country, I could really relate to what you are saying, because I know a lot of people in Dubai, just because their spouse is not happy, they move back to India.
Yeah.
We all heard that business model, it's okay. Maybe so many of us have experience of certain industry. Like for example, myself, I have experience of 10 years in retail industry, and I know that there are some gaps, and I know that I can do much better role in this particular thing. So most of us will have some niche in their mind, and they will
Yeah.
have that startup in their mind, but that
Right.
will not materialize for most of us. So the biggest step is materializing that on like physically getting started. Why do you think it happens? And what was that thing for you which helped you to actually materialize the organization?
Um, well, personally, I would say that, see, entrepreneurship, it's a tough journey. It is a very tough journey. It is a lonely journey. You know, you are constantly seeking for a lot of validation, spaces your idea, from your friends, from your family, from your colleagues, and from your customers at the max, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you're always in that tussle. You're always worried about the finances. And these are the kind of insecurities which always play in our minds whenever we are thinking of starting anything new, a new venture per se. And I'm sure that that's what I said, there are brilliant ideas in the world. I am pretty sure that there would be ideas brilliant than what we are doing right now. But the point is that these tussles that we have in mind, we have to reach a point where we are comfortable with taking on this discomfort for at least years, right? As we said that when we start, it's 60% of our emotions and 40% has to be facts. So this 40% in itself, though it's like just a 40%, but this number is in itself very huge. So I'll talk about it. There's a friend of mine. He says that what you're doing, it takes a lot of antar prerna.
Mm-hmm.
So if you kind of break entrepreneurship, it's like antar prerna, and that is just what entrepreneurship is about. You need to have a lot of self motivation in that case, because you have to convince yourself that the next 2 years are going to be probably the loneliest years of your life. You are going to keep fighting to convince your ideas to people, sometimes to your own self as well. And in a world where a startup means getting external validation, making something for the external world, making it work in the external world, to do that, you need to draw all the power from your inside. So, and it is not necessary that if we have a great idea, we just make a startup out of it immediately. Just let it germinate within yourself, right, within you. And when the time is right, when you feel that the financial stability is there, when you feel that emotional maturity is there at this point of time, that I can take the toll it is going to have on me for the next 2 years, then I'll embark on that. See, because to be honest, startup is just one of the what do you say, it's just one of the career options. It is not the most glamorous career option, it is just one of the career options, and we have to look at it in that manner only. Anyone who's working in a corporate environment is putting in equal amount of efforts. If that is making you satisfied, great. And and that idea that you have in your mind, you can pop up that idea to your cooperative seniors, and you can get that working over there also. Or you can stay in your corporate world for some time and work on that idea in parallel. My point is that when you're starting, when you have some great idea, not starting, but when you have some great idea, you got to think of 4 important points.
Okay.
Right. So first point is that what why what problem are you planning to solve? Second is how is your solution going to solve that problem? Right.
Okay.
Then the third point is what are you planning for your startup to achieve in the next 5 years? This is
Okay.
important. I know that's a stupid
Mm-hmm.
interview question that we get asked of, but this is
Mm-hmm.
when you're making a startup, it's important. What is your vision for the startup? But there's a
Mm-hmm.
fourth question which I feel is the most important, and that is, why are you doing it? Why are you planning to start
Lovely.
with it? Right?
Mm-hmm.
So are you doing it for the big money that is going to come in? Because that will not come in before 3-4 years. I am telling you, you'll be
Mm-hmm.
completely broke in the first 2 years, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Then the or are you doing it to really solve a problem? Very passionate about solving a problem, or are you doing it because you want to challenge yourself? For me, that was the thing. I wanted to challenge myself. I was in a state where I was very comfortable in my job. There were certain aspects of my personality which I wasn't quite happy with. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
am, as I told you, I am not a very vocal sort of a person. A
Mm-hmm.
startup puts you in a place where you have to talk to so many people day in, day out. You have to manage so many challenges. So for
Mm-hmm.
me, it was the thrill of actually creating a solution which I felt would solve a problem, and at the same time challenging myself as a person. And for that, we both of us, we made sure that for the next 2 years, would we be able to tackle the financial challenges that would come in. Just plan for 2 years. After 2 years, you'd either be mentally prepared to take on the next 2 years in poverty, or
Mm-hmm.
you would be in a situation where you would start making money. All right. So
Yeah.
that, I think, that is the kind of thing which I believe can help resolve the initial hiccups. But as I said, it is just a career option, nothing more than that.
Such an insightful thing. You put up that template of 4 questions like you need to ask, and it gives you both internal and external validation as well. And we talk about internal, what is your calling, and what is entrepreneur or your brain or your self motivation. What is your calling like? Which is more important than, is the business model feasible, is viable, are you making money out of it? So that is a very good way of looking at it. If you want to start a company, why you are the best person to start. I think
Yeah.
that we mostly ignore. We just go with the
Yes.
idea and then we say that, yeah, this will make money and I got to make more money. So that's now how
Yes.
it works. So this is another myth you have busted for our viewers. uh, Moving forward, so we talked about the business model, we talked about starting up, taking that plunge. Now coming to the first 2 years or first year of your startup, which I assume is the most crucial one, when
Mhm.
you have the proof of concept, and you'll get your first client, your first office space maybe, or if you're lucky enough, you'll get the first check from your customer. So how was that journey for you? Was it as difficult as it is posed or is talked about? What was your personal experience like?
Well, Abhinav, both Pratik and I, we are very, both of us are kind of lazy people. So, for us to start out of garage was not an option. So I think that was the first thing we sort of decided upon, that, we both have had good corporate careers, before we started. So we
Uh-huh.
decided that, there is going to be discomfort. But to
Mhm.
take on that discomfort, we have to at least sit in a comfortable environment, right? So we definitely, we took up, in the first year, we changed 2 offices, not just one, but we had 2 offices. We started out of a co-working space. We started thinking about this idea in May 2018, but we formally started in October. I
Mhm.
think it was a very interesting year. The first year was extremely interesting. When you start, you're very high on hopes. You
Mhm.
feel like in the next 1 year, you're going to make so much money, or you're going to get so many clients, you'll get your proof of concept. But then slowly, the reality check starts creeping in. And and you start thinking that, why are people not thinking about your idea the same way that you were thinking about it? Correct. And because you start with so much of conviction, but that's
Exactly.
fine, right? Because
Mhm.
yeah, but then that's fine. You talk to people, you go with an open mindset, and that is something which we have learned in the last 2 years. Our both of our perspectives have changed quite a lot. From the time when we used to think that, why is that person not understanding, we have shifted our perspective to, okay, let me try and understand why is he not understanding. Rather than
Mhm.
getting agitated at it, we try to think of the solution as
Mhm.
to why are they not able to get that. And honestly, some of our best ideas have come up from our failed meetings, which we have had quite a few. That is not, of course. So we got a first client in December, I think December 2018. So that was good for us, because we got it just 2 months into our business. And
Mhm.
and I think our first paycheck was somewhere in May of 2018, I guess. Yeah, so that was a good time for us. It wasn't as much as we were expecting, but still we were quite happy with it. We had started now, so it was nice. In the first year, we whatever ideas we had, some of those ideas, like this concept of making a one-stop solution, it seemed really nice to us. We pitched the idea as such to people or to companies. So our major clients have been corporates. We have now ventured into the consumer market, but our major clients until now have been corporates. So when we used to pitch this idea of one-stop solution, everyone used to really love that in the presentations, right? But after that, when we would get the final work, it would be some small pieces of it, not the entire chunk. We would get disappointed by it. But then we realized that the point is that there's no point getting disappointed by it. The reason being is that we have to first of all prove our worth. We know our worth. The other person does not know. So we don't have to really, we don't have to feel demeaned by the aspect that यार हमने इतना बढ़िया सोचा, सामने वाले को समझ नहीं आ रहा. So ऐसे करके, so this way we adopted a new strategy. We changed some communications in a manner that we can actually identify. We can hit the right pain points or the right spots so that people can actually understand what the solution is about. So if I give you an example, Abhinav, and I think this is probably something which will be applicable to a lot of other industries as well. But in the global mobility industry, as what we call the expat management industry in the corporate parlance, there is a global mobility document which every MNC prepares. So this document kind of, it documents every sort of procedures or policies which people should follow when they are going on international assignments, or which the companies should be following in order to make these international assignments every country compatible. So in all these policies, there are separate provisions which are mentioned for each of the services which we are providing. But companies generally, because it's managing the entire compliances in itself is a very tough task. It's a cumbersome task. You're managing it every month, and there are huge numbers involved. Expats get paid heavily in India, right? So there are huge numbers involved. So the other things, they kind of take a back seat for the companies as well. So in order to make them see the importance of it, the budgets are already sanctioned, right? You got to make them see the importance of it, that these things are also important. It is not just a show and fancy sort of a thing. We needed to change our communication strategy. So the point is that the solution is always there, hanging in the air. You just need the people to see it. Like, for example, if I say the apple was always falling down the tree, someone just needed to see it to analyze why the apple was falling, the logic to it. So you got to put logic to it. I think the marketing aspect of it. I was not a marketing person. I think these 2 years is something, yes, again, this one learning I'd like to put across is that, it does not matter whether you are a marketing person or you are a finance person. This probably goes out to all the MBA aspirants. We think that we'll not be able to do this, or we are cut out only for the finance world or the marketing world or the operations world. Unfortunately, no. it's in today's world, it's much better if we have knowledge of each and every small pocket of all of these things.
That's
because
so true.
yes, and see, it's a, if I talk about it in this manner, even if in operations we are dealing with machines, but machines are being operated by humans. Marketing, we are selling it to humans. We are creating the product for humans. Finance, we are again dealing with humans. Why? Because your money is always going to come from people, right? So in a nutshell, these 2 years, what we have realized is that we are dealing with humans. It's very simple. But at the same time, each of these human is different. So that mindset of dealing with each and every person in a different manner is something that is ingrained in each and every aspect of your organization or your job per se as well. So you got to have this openness in your mind ki bhai samne wala jo bol raha hai, we have to listen to that, we have to absorb that. Only then will you be able to correct your, whatever the shortcomings in your product are. And as I said, I mean, we have really, developed our product based on this, the gaps we have. I don't know if I've answered your question or not. I think I've spoken quite a lot, but yeah.
If I have to rephrase, or what you're trying to say is like going from first to second to third question, initially you have clarity, you have some experience, you know that this will work, and you have that hunch, you have the intuition, you have seen your facts, and now you're ready, and you know that I'll just kill this market and I'll make some money, and then you start. And when you
Yes.
start, the first day you're going to get into, and then you realize, no, this is not, it will work. It is like your mom will always say that you look good, but when you step out and then you realize that you get that reality check. So that's what
Yes.
happens to the startup. So you learn, and every day is a new day for you. And what you're also trying to say is the consumer don't segregate, or don't they judge you for the whole offering. They don't judge you like, oh, this marketing, this brand is good, but the marketing is not good, or it
Yeah.
financial has to set up.
Yes. You
For
put that
them,
right.
it's
Yeah.
just one complete company. So
Right.
when you start, the first year is sorting out that, or learning or unlearning what you have learned, or what your conviction or your biases or your perception or your understanding of the market is. So the first
Yes.
year is always invested in learning the consumer, and I would say reinforcing what you have already had in your mind, how
Yes.
and what business model will work, or maybe it
Hmm.
is evolving your business model, right? So
Yes.
I guess that is a big learning for all the startups who are in that struggling phase.
Yes. Absolutely.
Um, so
Hmm.
have you had this experience of going to a angel investors or a VC fund, and what all parameters you guys are get judged upon, or what decides that whether this startup is worth investing or not?
Sure. So yes. So basically, I mean, if you look at the angel investment or the venture capitalist world, what people generally look at is the market, the market potential that the company has. In fact, I
Okay.
had a chat with one of the VCs, and this was my question to them as well. That what basically do you look at in a company? So
Mm-hmm.
they said that of course it is that what sort of people can you reach out to, what you would say, the market potential, right?
Mm-hmm.
The market size that you can actually capture. One thing is obviously that, and second is what is the revenue potential in the future, right? So because, and of course, if you look at the ways the previous investing has been done, like of
Mm-hmm.
the other startups, right? So it has all gone on the basis of valuation, and valuation has always been determined basis on the market potential and revenue capital, revenue generation, and all that stuff. But now the
Mm-hmm.
focus is shifting. They are now the focus is now shifting to the ability to generate profits. It is no longer restricted to the manner that you just lower down your prices and you achieve a great market, you offer deep discounts, and
Mm-hmm.
you capture the entire 1 crore market or the 100 crore market. But now
Mm-hmm.
it is more about how you can generate profits, because we are in the new normal, be it the post COVID situation or be it the debacle of some of the greatest startups of the country, of the world, actually, right? Even
Mm-hmm.
post that, most of the investors are shifting their focus. So in this case, so in that case, it is, I mean, to any person who's now doing a startup or is currently doing a startup,
Mm-hmm.
I think it is very important that we look at it in a manner that we start that the company should be making money for itself, that it should not, we should be at a position where the company does not need the help of an external investor. When
Mm-hmm.
you're that self sufficient, then you're investment worthy, in my opinion.
Wow. So that's a major shift from like, first initially it was like just become a monopoly and take the market share and burn your investment gets into deep discounting and taking the market share, capturing. So that one time after few years you will become the market leader, and then you will capitalize on profitability. But now the focus is shifting towards product profitability, and you guys are expected to uh, be self-sustainable and generate profits. So that's a major shift which is happening, and rightly so, because you have already shared like this was the experience from what we have seen in with WeWork and all
Yes,
those
we
developments.
work in all.
So
Basically,
I think
business model is extremely important, right? If your business
mhm,
model is not supposed to work in the future, there's no
yeah.
point for the investors to pump in money for something which will just be a fad for about 3 to 4 years and then die down. Because everyone loses money at the end of the day. There are many lives at stake, to be honest. There are many employees who are working in your company, right? At the end of the day. So that's also
Mhm,
important for them now. So, honestly, I would say that it's not that all the investors are currently thinking in that manner. Of course, the valuation strategy, valuation focus is still there in the market, because
mhm,
we are looking at a lot of consumer startups in the market
mhm,
currently. So that
mhm,
thing is definitely going to be there for some time. But then for the B2B startups per se,
mhm.
profitability becomes extremely important. Sustainability and profitability, that becomes important, and that is becoming an important metric in the books of investors now.
Okay. Okay. And what about the plan B? Like, because if it is all hunky dory and everything is going well, it's fine. But we know
Hmm.
that the success rate is very, very small, minuscule. when it comes to a startup
Yes.
getting funded or startup making it large. So is it important to have a plan B for any entrepreneur? Was it there for you? And how do you manage that? For any advice for a new startup guy?
See, plan B. Okay, so let's call it plan B within the plan A and plan B outside of plan A.
Okay.
So, like, so see, when you're okay, so let me just take that through from our example only, because expat orbit is something which I've been working on, so I can probably answer it that way better. So when you're working, you have when you start, you have a lot of ideas in your mind, even within your own startup, right? You think that I can do this thing in this manner, A manner, B manner, C manner, but then you prioritize and you feel that for this moment A manner is better. So you start working towards the A direction, because you cannot work on A, B, C, D altogether, right? It will just simply confuse you and put you out of business. So you start working on A, and then you hit a situation where probably A is not working, then you kick in B. Like, for example, in the COVID situation where you're talking about, right? This COVID situation is something which has really hit a lot of startups very badly. Many of them have unfortunately gone out of business. But for us, it was like that we always wanted to get onto the online platform, reach the expat consumers on a mass basis. This COVID situation gave us time to rethink. We had to take, to be honest, we have taken a couple of hits. Every startup has, our work is directly related to people moving in and out of the country, which even now is on hold, to be honest. So a lot of projects which we had in hand could not materialize or have been kept on hold because of this situation. But then that gave us some time to think about it, and we kicked in a plan B that, okay, the new normal is going to be the digitization, right? Let's shift to the digital platforms. We are already working on mobile application. Let's just make that and make an extension out of it and go forward. So that's what I'm saying. See, it's all about perspective, to be honest. That is the reason why I'm saying you got to have a plan B within plan A, first of all. Don't give up so easily. First, have a plan B within plan A. Change your perspective. If you have conviction in it, you just see, and you just got to see it, look at it from a distance, a little bit of a distance. You will see that there is a world that exists beyond your plan A, and you will be able to implement it. Right? Your idea cannot be that feeble that it will just fall at plan A. Okay, so this is one thing. And of course, plan B, I would say, when you're the actual plan B, something which goes beyond your startup, when you're starting, do not have a plan B. Just keep that a little bit of small corner of comfort in your mind, that, okay, if something does not happen, I know I'll manage, I'll do something, I'll probably get a new job. That's it. Don't think beyond that. But when you're working and you're hitting very low spots, then just give, I think at that point of time, it is probably important to just keep on telling yourself that I can have plan Bs beyond my startup, and that is just to reinstate your self-worth to yourself.
Okay.
So that you do not the word called procrastination, that is very important in a startup. I know people say that is the evil, but that is an evil, but it is not. So when you're in that situation, then think of a plan B. Okay, if it's not working, I know I can do it, but let me focus on this right now. Then your plan A will work. I am telling you, it will work.
Wow. And that also reminds me of what you said earlier, that it started so different than what you used to do for a company. It's just another employment. So you have to put that hours, you have to work hard, and if it doesn't work, and then and in the end, you can always find another job because you had so much experience. So it won't hamper all your career options and all that. So, but you have to give your time and
Yes.
Exactly, and you have to give yourself time. And even if it doesn't work for some time, it's okay. So that should be the learning all the viewers should get. So that was a few of the questions from my side, and I'll now invite our audience, our guests today. We have Utkalika and we have Nimit.
Thank you, Anna, for sharing this beautiful journey. I thought I will probably a personal question. At this juncture, how do you feel exactly after whatever you achieved or whatever you did? Did you? I mean, you that you never was a startup kind of person, but how do you feel at this juncture, and what do you look forward to? Like from here, where would you go? Do you have certain plans around that?
Thank you, Kalika. I feel happy, to be honest. I feel challenged, but I feel really happy. I am constantly anxious, to be honest. I mean, you're in my subconscious mind. It's always expat orbit playing. Even if however how much ever I try to distance myself, there is always there. But still, that anxiety is also something that keeps me happy. I feel satisfied with what I am doing, even if I know that it's going to take some time for me to reach the expected financial standing that I'm hoping for myself. I am hoping for myself. So, but still, it makes me feel happy. And where I see myself going from here, what my future plans are, the plans at the moment are completely about expat orbit. I have a vision. I have this. I would say that this entire COVID situation, Kalika, has given us a lot of time to introspect, and this entire introspection has made both Pratik and me extremely positive about the venture somehow. And we are really glad about it. So our entire focus and entire plan for the future at the moment is just to realize the vision which we actually are feeling that will shape up.
Thank you for sharing that. I mean, I'm sure people who are aspiring to be entrepreneur, generally anxiety kicks in, generally fear kicks in, and I'm sure you've
Yeah.
gone through that. But after reaching to a certain level, I'm sure the happiness what you are currently experiencing, you can't compare that with any other happiness. And
Yeah.
I'm very sure that you're very proud of what you're doing, and all of us are proud of. Um,
Thank you.
like all the best for the next part of the journey.
Thank you.
Keeping COVID situation make positive itself again is another message. Actually, I was not very. I mean, I'm not expecting this answer. That how many people would give that answer that COVID has made them positive versus how many people would actually say that we are not kind of very comfortable with the situation. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's a different bright side to the entrepreneurship, I would say. Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
I'm
Thank you.
glad that you have asked that question and brought about the aspect of how you feel after 2 years and how COVID has made you introspect. So I'm glad that you had that question, and Hannah has rightly pointed out that it has only made her more positive, and the introspection has helped her uh, to visualize the new normal for her own company and what target she has put on further. So I'm hopeful that that will all pan out. So we
Thank
have
you.
Nimit. What's your
Yeah,
question,
hey,
Nimit?
hey, Hannah.
Hi, Nimit.
I'm feeling so modest right now from just listening to you. Humble, actually. After listening to you, it's so beautiful in the last half an hour. I think Antar Prerit to will become my life mantra now. Antar Prerna. Yeah, yeah, and this is
That's a
actually
Before
good
before
word,
you
na?
continue,
Huh?
I'll just tell everyone that Nimit was just saying that he wants to start his own company. In the next 3 years, he
Yeah.
wanted to start his own company. So I think
uh,
this last 30 minutes would be a great inspiration
yeah,
for him
this
as well.
couldn't have come in the better time right now. This whole interview. So the one before I just say my question or ask my question. I really want to say one more thing that we always knew that you're awesome, you're wonderful, and
Thank
you're
you.
amazing, you're a great friend. What I really after listening to you, what really I felt was you're a very good person.
Oh, thank you so much.
I don't know how deep you understood it, but I really meant it from a very depth of my heart kind of thing. You can remove
Thank you.
that part, but this good has a very, I believe that good has a lot of power. It has powers beyond great and best, great, better, best. Good has a lot of power. It goes a long way instead of anything else. And I thought and I felt that you're a very good person from all the
Thank
things that
you.
you said.
Thank
So
you, Nimit.
I have a very hopeful question, and rather a
Mhm.
very hopeful plus a very important question to understand is see there is your team building. Okay, so the building your team, hiring your team, and really so there are two parts of it, and one is when you are doing when you're working in a company where effectively you are you look for you feel that okay you are responsible for people's careers, but at the same time, you're not really responsible for their money per se. It's a company.
Yeah.
Now that you're building, you're growing, you would have a vision, of course, of a scale, whichever scale it is. Yeah, matlab
Yeah.
it's whatever comfortable you are, but of course,
Right.
you will need people with you. So
Yes.
how do you do your recruitments? What do you tell your people? how do you select them, and
Yeah.
and every question that you can think around it. Yeah, that's my question.
You've kind of hit the uh, actually Nimit, thanks you mentioned that, because this was something that I really wanted to mention, because
Mm-hmm.
team is something which is extremely important. I mean, without the people whom you're working with, they make the startup or they break the startup, to be honest, and we have personally experienced that. So to answer your question, Nimit, when we began, it was just Pratik and me, and we had the support of my brother. And I would just say that he is like the biggest support. I mean, of course my family has supported me like big time. Both of our family have supported us big time, and not just emotional or mental support. It has been a lot of you know the practical support that they've given. Like my brother, he's a designer, and he has his own design and tech company, and he takes care of all our design and tech requirements. So that aspect of it was sorted because he was managing it all. And
Mm-hmm.
after that, the recruitment aspect. So that's why I said that our family has been really supportive. So Pratik's wife, she's an HR consultant, and we have troubled her a lot, and but she's been really sweet and nice, and she's doing the best sort of recruitments for us. And at this moment, for our team, I would say that that's why I said that this COVID situation, during this COVID time, we did a lot of organization restructuring. There were certain decisions which we were very hesitant to take before this entire situation kicked in. But we got this strength because you're driven to the brim. You don't have an option. You either take those decisions or you'll just go out of the business. You'll sink, right? So we took those decisions. We had to let go of a couple of people, but the lesser people we let go, the more people we hired at the moment. This we went to the strategy of looking at it from a perspective that someone who would be able to appreciate the work that we are doing. So rather than going for a recruitment wherein we hire people from good colleges and stuff like that, what we did was we went for a different strategy wherein we hired interns this time. So we have an internal team anyway. So our design team is there. There are some internal team members as well, but we went on to hire some interns. These interns are from a very good college, and honestly, they are amazing people. They are literally kicking off two amazing products which we are planning to launch in the near future, and they're literally solely working on it. The reason for that is because they are literally the owners. So Pratik, when he hires any person, he just mentions this thing: you have to come and work in a manner that you are an owner. If you falter, we falter, and that is very true of any startup. In a corporate environment, what will happen is that if one person is not working for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, you can live with it. But in a startup, if someone's not working for 1 week, or if it's things are not falling in place, they're not enjoying their work, you falter, completely falter. So that's how we do it. And yes, I mean, we've been
मेरे
quite
साथ
lucky
खड़ी
in
हो
that.
जाए, घूम
So we've been quite lucky in that manner. We have a Japan desk building now. So there is a Japanese
ये नहीं लेते
consultant
हैं.
whom we have now, and there are 3 people in Japan. No, sorry, 4 people in Japan who are working with us. And all this team has been built during this time. So yeah, I mean, that way, I would say that um, it's extremely important to build a great team. We have struggled quite a lot on that, but we are finally coming up to it now. Yeah.
Wow, that's really nice. Like what you are trying to say is when you are going for hiring, you are actually hiring all the entrepreneurs, and you are giving and you are empowering them
Yes.
so
Yes.
that all of them are working and have that right kind of ownership to the job.
Yes.
So that's very important. And I'm glad Nimit brought about this question, because without the team, with no startup can
Not at
work,
all possible.
and that's the biggest challenge I would say, and also the
It is.
opportunity we all
It
have.
is.
Right. So, lastly, what do you have to say, like a parting comment to all the people who have been taking notes throughout the interview? Any last words of wisdom for them?
Yes. I would say that if you just take it easy, take it light. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're really serious about your startup, don't take it too seriously. Just have a life beyond the startup, beyond your company. You are a separate entity, your company is a separate entity. You have to take out those time to see it, look at it from a distance, so that you really see what's happening correct or what's happening wrong, and how you can correct it. If you're too close to it all the time, um, you will not be able to see what's faltering. You will be too attached to it. and you cannot hear anything wrong about what you're too attached to, right? And your startup will obviously have some flaws which you can improve upon. So just ease out. You have to enjoy the entire process. If you don't enjoy it, then there's no point doing it. Simple.
Thank you so much, Hannah.
Thank
That
you,
was the
Vinay.
wrap. Today Hannah shared the journey of her startup, 2 years old startup, with us, and we started with how's the business model, how she thought about it, and how she actually started this venture with her co-founder Prateek. And then we also spoke about what the first year looks like, what are the learnings, what do we how do we gain the confidence, how do we understand the consumers. We also spoke about what are the parameters which the VCs looked upon, or how a typical startup is judged upon for the investment. We also discussed some of the aspects like hiring and also the COVID aspects with our guests who rightly included that to make this interview more comprehensive. And finally, I want to thank you, Hannah,
Thank you.
for your time. And I also want to thank Utkalika and Amit for being so patient and adding value to the whole interview.